basics of accounting and finance. So this is to let me introduce myself. My name is Mohammad Sami, and I have worked for a couple of companies in the past 9 years spread over. I work for Franklin Templeton, Cognizant Technology, CES, and right now I'm working in as a manager in fund accounting for State Street Corporation. It's been like 10 years of journey so far, and so I've got an opportunity to learn many things. So just wanted to share with you guys. So this is a platform where we are conducting this session called as Career Guidance Council. So let me give a quick introduction of this NGO, which I'm a part of
Sami,
as well.
sorry to interrupt you. We are not able to see you.
With an aim and objective
Mr. Sami,
to bridge the gap between
sorry to interrupt you.
students,
We are not able to see
what
you.
is being taught at colleges or school versus what is expected at the industry level. Because this team CGC consists of volunteers who works for different MNCs across.
Mr. Sami, we are not able to see you.
So who are spread across different locations: Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi. Where not only in India, we have volunteers across the world. Some working in Dubai, Saudi, Dammam, Qatar, and Australia and US also. So it's a team of
Mr.
working
Sami.
professionals working in different domains, sharing their experiences.
Hello.
It's been like more than 10 years we are doing this, and for your information, like all these services are given at free of cost, or no services, no money is charged for any kind of programs we conduct. And during this COVID situation, we are not stop ourselves from taking sessions, and we are continuing this in the form of webinars. And I really like to welcome you and congratulate you for joining this session and taking a step towards learning the things. So welcome, and this was the introduction of our organization, the Career Guidance Council. And going forward, at the end of this slide, or the end of the presentation, I would also share how you can contact and become a member, volunteer, and how you can move forward with us. So coming back to the accounting part, as we know that accounting and finance is the backbone of any company. No company would run without having an accounting background or a finance, having the finance department in it, because companies runs with the concept of profit motive. So when there is a profit, there involves the money, and when there money or cash is involved, then there is a need of accountant. Accountants are required in all the companies, depending on the it can be, the number can be different, like more sometimes more or sometimes less, but accountants are required everywhere. So this is an attempt to make the people aware of the basic concepts and conventions, or the basic topics in accountancy. I know many of us, or whoever are from accounting background, we have learned this in our academics, but just to this attempt is just to make this presentation in line with what is expected, or what can be asked in the interview in MNCs, especially MNCs or corporate interviews. So without taking much time, I would like to start today's presentation. To start with, the first thing given on this slide, that was the principles of accountancy. When we talk about the principle of accountancy, or the types of accounting being followed throughout the world. So basically, there are two types of accounting which is followed throughout the world. If we have to categorize it broadly, so basically there are those two types would be, one is the cash concept, and the other is the accrual or mercantile basis of accounting. This is called as the basis of accounting. Basis of accounting is two. I'm repeating again, basis of accounting is two types. One is the cash basis, and another is the mercantile basis, or it can also be called as accrual basis. Most of us might have heard this term, cash basis and accounting. So what happens in cash basis is so these are the basic types of accounting basis: cash basis versus accrual and mercantile basis. Cash basis is nothing but as simple as that. As the name goes, it is the cash, everything would done on the cash basis. For example, if the company is getting the cash, they would make the journal entries, they will make the entries in their records. And whenever the cash is going out, they make the records, they keep the records and book the entries in their books. So what happens here is, if you talk about, okay, on the other hand, we have something called as accrual basis of accounting or mercantile basis of accounting. This is something very opposite or different than cash basis. Accrual basis is nothing but it takes care of all the cash basis transactions as well as all credit
sorry to interrupt
transactions
you.
as well.
Hello.
Because when we are talking about the business runs on the profit.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We are not able to see you.
There are many people who want something on credit as well. Exactly, right. So not everyone would give you cash. They want something on the credit basis. So they want just a moment. Okay, sorry for that. Coming back. So there would be many people, there are many parties who would be interested in getting something on a credit basis. There may be large clients, huge clients we may have who want to give some, who want to take something on credit and give it back after 3 months, maybe 6 months or so. So we have, in order to accommodate that, we have to allow them and provide them a credit facility, or there are many other things. For example, if we are paying a rent for our company premises, then we would have to pay rent. So rent would be paid not in the month usually. For example, if I have to pay month of June month, what I do is I usually pay June month rent in the month of July. So if I am following cash basis of accounting, that would be very incorrect, and it would record June's month rent in the month of July. So that would be incorrect accounting. So that is the reason accrual method or a mercantile basis of accounting is followed. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are following accrual method of accounting. There are very less cases, or there are very low companies or very small companies who would be following the cash basis, like small kirana stores and maybe pawn shop also. They would be following cash basis of accounting, wherein they are just maintaining how much cash is coming in. It would not be impacting for them to keep a record and everything. But for big companies, we do require it to be recorded. We need a proper record because we have to file IT returns, income tax returns, and as well as we have to publish the statements, financial statements every quarterly or yearly as the rule applicable to our organization. So accrual system is the complete basis of accounting. It's a complete system of accounting which is followed throughout the world. Coming back to the second topic of the day, very important, I would say, if somebody understands concepts and conventions of accounting, then we know like the basis, on what basis we are treating the things. You might have seen when we make the journal entries, we treat certain items in certain ways. So if you have, if you read this concept or you understand this concept, then you will understand these are the concepts which are the basis of why we are selecting so and so, why we are debating this, why we are crediting some items. So accounting, to give a quick background about what concepts and conventions mean. In simple language, concepts and conventions are nothing but it's a rules, or it's a guidelines, it's a principle, it's the postulates, or it's the methodologies which we have to, as an accountant, we have to keep in mind. We have to apply this whenever we are writing the books of accounts. As an accountant, it is mandatory on our part to know was telling accounting concepts and conventions. Basically, these are the rules, methodologies, or the procedures we have to follow or keep in mind as an accountant while we are writing the books of account or treating each item correctly. So these are the things we have to keep in mind. So without taking much time, let us move to the next slide and see what are the accounting concepts and conventions we have in place today. To start with, we would see what are the different concepts we have in accounting, then we'll move one by one. This is something which I've already covered in the presentation already. The term concept we use for accounting postulate, these are necessary assumptions or conditions which accountant has to keep in mind. So first concept here, what we are going to discuss is the business entity concept.
Sorry for interrupt you, Sami. We are not able to see your screen. Kindly share your screen, please.
Screen I've already shared. Is it for everyone or?
We are not able to.
Oh, we can only see the desktop. We can
Desktop.
see the red car on the desktop, but not presentation.
Just a minute. Oh.
Now we are unable to see, able to see the screen, PPT.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Guys, please mute your mobile phone.
So first concept we were discussing, that's a business entity concept. So basically this concept talk about the business and businessman to be different person. We have to treat. Sorry, can you mute? Everybody can mute themselves, please. Okay, business and entity concept is nothing but the this concept says business and business man should be two different entities we have to treat. Why it is said so? The reason is we do not have to mix a transaction of businessman. For example, if somebody has started a business using, let us say, take one very small example of some person is starting their business worth of using the investment of 1 lakh rupees. And he has kept some small shop and he is starting business. In order to arrive at the correct profit and loss, how much he has earned, how much he has assets, how much he has liabilities to the business, he has to make sure that he is recording his transactions as a person, as an entity differently, and his business transaction as differently. If he is investing 1 lakh into the business, then it has to be treated as something different, because if he is taking the money back, there would be no accuracy in that. What I mean to say is business, whenever the business takes money, he considered the businessman as a separate entity. Two parties would be different. So what happens, you know, when they start writing the books, what they do is they consider the businessman. For example, Ambani is there, Anil Ambani is a one person who is a businessman, and his business is the second entity. If Anil Ambani is investing something into the Reliance Communication, for example, so Reliance Communication would be one party and Anil Ambani would be another party. For Reliance Communication, Anil Ambani would be one outsider person, an outsider who is giving money as a loan, you can say, as an investor, you can say, he is giving money to the business. So whenever, that is the reason you can see whenever you take a look at the balance sheet, on the liability side, the first item what you see is the capital. What does it mean? Liability itself means it's a responsibility to pay. So business says, I owe to the businessman. So we have to treat both the entities separate. In plain terms, business entity concept says you have to treat business and businessman as two different entities. If you can see, this is the pictorial form of what we are discussing. The person who is getting the money is considered to be the outsider for the business. Yes. So this is the in the pictorial format what I have explained. Like capital or the liability, capital is considered as the liability, and whatever he takes that would be considered as the asset or the term as a drawing. So whenever the businessman takes money back, is considered as the drawing. The word drawing is used in order to see how much the businessman is taking. So for the business, the businessman is the outsider entity. Moving on to the second. Yes, the personal transaction of the owner are not recorded. For example, a card purchased by the owner for personal use is not recorded in the books of accounts of the business. Because if we mix the transaction, we do not come to the correct picture, like how much we have earned, the actual profit, or if my business is running into the profit or loss, we do not come to know. So this concept is very much important to keep in the mind. Second concept is what we are going to discuss, the going concern concept. Can you see going concern concept on my screen?
Yes. Yes. We can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Going concern concept. This concept, see, whenever what I am explaining is in terms of interview, whenever you're going for interview, you have to explain this. Whenever it is asked, you have to explain it in very simple terms. So they are asking, interviewer is asking you what is going concern concept. Simply you have to give the very plain definition, like what you really mean by this. Business runs for a long term. So whenever you start a business or you are operating a business or you are writing books of account for any business, you have to assume that the entity would run forever. That is why there is a terminology called, you might be recollecting whenever we are being explained about this concept, like this business would run forever. So whenever you are explaining this concept, you have to keep in mind that you have to say, as per this concept, we have to think that business would run forever. The reason why we have to assume it that way is, if you are thinking that business would running for 1 or 2 years, then whatever the agreements we have with the people, whatever the contracts we have with the people, or we have some dealings with the sundry debtors, sundry creditors, that they may not take the thing seriously. For example, if I say my business would run for only 1 year, then they would say 1 year, let me drag this loan to 1 year. After that, I will not pay. So whenever you show the life of your business is short, then the problems will arise. The contractual obligations you have with the people or the people have with you or something owing people owing you, then there would be a problem. So that's the reason we have to assume as per this concept that your business is going to run for the perpetual existence. There is a term called perpetual existence. You have to think that your business is going to run at perpetual, means it is going to run forever. Moving on to next concept, this is money measurement concept. This concept is very simple and very plain. This concept talks about that accounting, where the accountants or accounting would record only transaction which can be expressed in terms of money. No other transactions like experience of my directors or my employees, if they are very expert in the field, they are very professional, they are very diligent, those things cannot be recorded. Only the things which can measure in terms of in terms of money can be recorded. For example, if I'm buying some furniture, so that involves some cost, I have to pay money. I have to pay some salary to my employees. I have some rent to the paid for the factory. I have some interest to be paid. So wherever the money is involved, I have to write only those transactions. In the next slide, you will see some examples related to this. So as we rightly discussed, in accounting, record is made only those transactions or event which can be expressed in terms of money. No other transactions like this. Let me give you examples here. No non-monetary transactions are not recorded, like innovativeness. My employees' attitudes are good. I have very skilled people with me. People work with a teamwork. They have like a good gel up kind of culture wherein people talk to each other, gel up easily, and they help each other. Everything is there. So these things cannot be basically right in the accounting terms or accounting books. Moving on, accounting period concept. Accounting period concept is nothing but it says even though we says our organization will run perpetually or it is going to run forever, but this accounting concept called as accounting period concept, this says even though you are telling that life of your business is forever, but in order to know the correct profit and loss of the business or correct how much to know where your business stands, is it running into profit or is it running into losses, you need to cut out your life of the asset, life of the organization into some pieces. That pieces would be called as accounting period concept. What we do usually, we'll just how we segregate this. So this is basically segregate into 12 months of period, like 1 year period. In India, it is followed as from April 1st to next year, March. Similarly, in US, they follow January to December calendar. What happens is by cutting this way, they will close the books, something called as closing of book. This is also one of the terminology you need to keep in mind. They would close the book in December, then they'll prepare something called as final accounts we already aware of, like profit and loss account they prepare, then they prepare balance sheet. So by preparing profit and loss account, they get to know how much we have earned during this last year, and by preparing balance sheet, we'll get to know the position of our business, whether do we have the a large number of liabilities to be paid, or we have good assets in hand which can be used in future and all. So this is necessary. This is a must on our part as a business to cut out the life of the period to 1 year each. Then each year we would be the assessment of ourselves and we'll see. Okay, as we mentioned already, this is the definition for measuring the financial results of a business periodically. The working life of an undertaking or the organization is split into convenient short periods called accounting periods. So I hope everyone is clear now. Accounting period is nothing but it is a 12 months period where end of accounting period, we just sit out and accountants close the books and prepare profit and loss account and balance sheet. And this is a pictorial form, like how, see, if we are assuming that our life of the organization is going forever, like here is the 15, 16, 17, whatever the months we are counting. So what we are doing is we are putting a break here and splitting that into the first phase, which is called as one accounting period. The very purpose of having this accounting period is just to know the profit and loss account. For the comparisons also, it would be helpful for comparing the things, also comparing your performance of the business. If 1 year the performance was not good, they would take care in the next year. What they do is they'll take some another steps. They think of having more capital from the people, or they think of how much, if we have got some extra asset, we think of selling off those assets. If we are really running into losses, we can think of liquidating our business or selling it to somebody. So for that reason, accounting period, having the accounting period is a must. Next concept in the pipeline is the cost concept. This concept is very simple. This concept talk about, do not get confused whenever we are talking about this concept. Many people have seen, many students get confused when we talk about cost concept. People think that wherever the cost is involved or money is involved. No, this is very much related to your fixed assets. So basically, cost concept is related to fixed assets. Whenever you are recording the fixed assets in the books of accounts, this concept says you have to record these transactions using the cost price of the asset, not the market value of the asset. That is why it is called as historical cost. For example, if I'm buying a machinery for my organization or my business into the and kept that into the factory, and the cost of that machinery was 5 lakhs. In the next year, I take out the depreciation of 10 years example. So next year, my machinery value would be 10%. If I'm taking out 10% of 5 lakhs, that is 50,000. So my machinery value would be 4,50,000. Just imagine a situation, if I want to sell the same machine into the market, do you think we will get 4,50,000? Not really. Once machine or any product or equipment is used, the value goes down drastically. So in this case also, this concept says whatever the value in the market is, for example, it can be 4,50,000, more than 4,50,000, or it can be pretty much less than 4,50,000. So this concept says whenever you are recording the transactions, not the transaction, whenever you are recording the assets, fixed assets especially, so you have to use the cost price or historical cost. In our case, 5 lakh was the cost, and it has to be every year has to be depreciated, and in the first year it would be 4,50,000. And if we are following a straight line or fixed line of depreciation method, then it would be next year it would be again 10% would be deducted. So my value of the machinery would be shown in the second year as 4 lakh rupees. The market value of the machinery can be 2 lakh after 2 years, right? It can be, it's pretty much possible that the value of asset can go down, because as we are using, nobody would like to buy a used machine. The value would be like 2 lakh into the market value of the asset is 2 lakh. But if you talk about the cost price, it would be 4 lakh. How did I arrive at the 4 lakh is 5 lakh minus 50,000 depreciation in first year and 50,000 depreciation in the second year. So this is one example. Historical cost in this case, for example, of my computer equipment was $555. And if I'm following historical cost, the cost would be, if this is a situation where I'm not taking out the depreciation. So historical cost, as per the historical cost, I would be showing 555 in the first year. Second year also, I would be showing the 555. But the market value would have been like in the year 2010 when I purchased, it was 555. But in the year 2000 level, it has drastically gone down to $250. So that's the reason this concept basically give the advantage to the business by giving them option to show the historical price rather than market price. So this is very winning situation for the business in this case, where the accounting concept, where this concept basically cost concept is allowing the businesses to show the fixed asset at the historical cost. Moving on the next concept, that is dual aspect concept. What does this concept says? Everyone who are the accounting student, they might heard about the double entry bookkeeping system. There were two types of accounting system when we talk about recording the transaction. There would be single entry system of bookkeeping and a double entry. Single entry is as we discussed initially, like that's whenever cash is coming, we just write cash received. Whenever cash is going, we say cash paid for something. Whenever buying something, so one line of transaction we used to write. That's called as a single entry bookkeeping of system. What is broadly followed throughout the world in all types of organization is dual aspect concept or dual entry bookkeeping system. So this concept basically says the businessman or the business has to have, whenever we are recording transaction, we must have two sides of the transaction. One would be the receiving end and one would be the giving aspect. So basically it called as giving aspect and receiving aspect. For example, taking the example would be, if I'm paying the rent. So in the case of rent, what is the giving aspect is the cash what I am paying to the owner is the giving aspect, and what I am receiving the property in the form of, like, I can utilization of the property I am receiving. So there is this concept says we must have two aspects to all the transactions. We cannot have only one-sided transactions. Whenever we are talking about any transaction, recording any transaction, you cannot write only one debit or you cannot write only one credit. You must have one debit and one credit for each of the transactions. Here I have an example. For example, we are selling something for cash. So two aspects would be, in terms of receiving aspect, I would be receiving cash worth rupees 10,000, and the sales I have made, the inventory I have given to the purchaser, that would be considered as the giving aspect. So in this case, we have two aspects. And one more example I have in place. See, in this also, purchase goods from RAM worth rupees 20,000 and discount received. In this also we have three transactions. Basically, if I have to explain you, there are two transactions involved here. One transaction, we are purchasing goods from RAM, so that entry would be purchases account to RAM's account if you are taking something on credit. And the discount received happens, you must be knowing discount received would come into the picture when we take something on cash. We are on the spot if we are paying the cash. So in this case also we have debit as a purchases account. Whatever the inventory I am receiving, that is my receiving aspect, and the RAM's account, whoever is the giver is the giving aspect. So every simply in simple plain terms, whenever we are talking about or explaining about this concept, you can say dual aspect concept is nothing but every transaction of accounting must have two sides of the transaction. One can be receiving aspect and one can be giving aspect. And this is what we call as the double entry bookkeeping system of accounting. Okay. Another concept I have after that is the that's very good. Because of the previous concept, dual aspect concept, what happens is there is something called as a accounting equation came into picture. What is accounting equation? Accounting equation is nothing but the all assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's capital. Owner's equity is nothing but the capital what you write on the liability side. That is the reason we always see that we are always running as students. You must be remembering that we always used to run behind tallying our balance sheet. So why do you think we have to they always have to match? All the assets should and must at any given point of time should match with the liabilities plus capital. The reason is very simple, as we have just discussed. This is due to the double entry bookkeeping system of accounting what we are following. You are writing one debit and one credit for all the entries, whether you are paying rent, whether you are receiving some kind of income, whether you are buying any asset, whether you are paying any liability. In all the cases, what you are doing is we are following double entry bookkeeping or system of accounting, and we are writing two transactions or two lines for each transaction. That is the reason all your at any given point of time your accounting equation must be time. If something is not time, if assets are more than liabilities or vice versa, liabilities are more than asset, then it means one of our journal entry or few of our journal entries were not recorded properly. So if our balance sheet is matching, what does it indicates is whatever the entries we have booked into our accounting books, that's a correct entries we have. Moving on. Okay, there is something called as realization concept. Realization concept is simple, but sometimes it is confusing as well. This concept says profit is earned when goods or services are provided to the customers. Usually what happens, we write the transaction in normal course of business or a simple business if we are running, we record the transaction when cash is received. But this concept, because we are following accrual concept, this concept says you have to think that profit is earned only at the time of when goods or services are provided, not when the cash is received. If I'm delivering some product right now, but I'm not getting money, so this concept says you have to write whatever the profit and loss related to the transaction right now, because that is related to this point of time, this date, this year. For example, today is the 31st December, and I'm closing my books in order to prepare profit and loss account and balance sheet. So what I do, and I have one customer who is asking something on credit. He's asking me some worth rupees 1 lakh rupees of goods on 31st December, and he says I will pay amount for this transaction after 15 days or 1 month. So in this case, realization concept says even though you are going to get money afterwards, in this case 15 days or 1 month, but still you have to write this transaction or whatever the profit or loss related to that transaction on 31st December itself. You do not have to wait for the cash to come. See, the reason for having this kind of concept in place is they want to ensure the transaction, whenever the transaction happening, you are writing it to the books of account in order to have the accuracy in place, in order to track the transactions happening on the particular date itself. So that's the reason this concept says you have to write the profit when the goods or services are delivered or provided, service is provided, not the when cash is received. Hope I'm not going too fast. Anybody can confirm?
No.
Okay.
No, it's good.
Okay, now we have something called as matching concept. Matching concept also it's pretty much related to the realization concept what we just discussed. Matching concept also says whenever there is some receiving okay, this concept says whenever you are spending some amount, so you have to get some benefit out of it. For example, if I'm paying money for rent, so it's this concept says what is that you are going to earn out of it. So in when I'm paying rent, what I'm getting in return is the utilization of the place. When I'm paying the salary, this concept, matching concept says what you are getting in return. So I would say I'm getting the services of my employees in return. So this, as it is rightly written there, it says all the revenues and all the associated expenses are recorded in the same accounting period. For example, in the previous example where we have discussed about some person asking us to give something on credit. So in that case, this matching concept says that transaction was ended up in considering as an expense to me because I am paying something, giving some kind of goods to the people, so that is considered as expense to the business. So whatever I am getting in return, because of paying that expenses, that has to be recorded in the same accounting period. The matching principle is a basis on which accrual system or accrual accounting method of accounting is built. As we have already discussed initially when we are talking about the principles of basis of accounting, there are two types of accounting we have in place: cash accounting and accrual basis. So matching concept or the accrual concept, they just go hand in hand. They are just synonym to each other. So this basically says if you are taking advantage of any expenses or you are getting profit of by way of getting interest from the bank or selling some securities, if you have some capital gain in place, or you are selling some asset, all transaction, if irrespective of whether money is received or not, to be recorded here. Here I have one example in place to understand this better. Salary paid in 2012 and 2013 relating to the year of 2011 and 2012. So it happens, it's happened in many organizations that salary related to 1 month is paid in the next month basically. For example, June month salary, when we are working in our organizations, right, there are certain companies which pay on the first business day of the month, like and some pays the last month. But in the usually, if you talk about the government organizations in India, they usually pay after first. So if when they are accruing this concept, if you are following accrual concept, if you are paying March salary, then you have to record it before 31st March itself, even though you are making payment on in the month of April. If you are paying in the April, like April 1st, 2nd, or whatever the date is, irrespective of the date, this concept, matching concept and accrual concept says that you have to write the transactions when they are happening, when they are getting accrued, when they are when the income is earned, not when the payment is made. Irrespective of the payment or irrespective of the receipt, I have to write the transactions. For example, if I'm buying some asset and I want to give money after some period of time, like I've got one furniture from my friend and I've just told him that I would be paying money after 1 month. I do not have, I have some cash crunch, and so my friend obviously allow me some time. So in that case also, this transaction, this concept, accrual concept or matching concept says you have to write the transaction when you are receiving the asset, not when you are making the payment. Similar way, if you have money into the bank and you are getting interest. So as per this concept, you have to write the interest. For example, if I'm getting Q1 interest, Q1 quarter 1 interest, so I have to write that interest in my books as an income. I have to show that as an income before 31st March because that interest is related to Q1 2020. So this, as per this concept, I would be getting money after 1 week or so, but still this concept says you have to record that transaction in order to have the clear picture, because Q1 expenses, Q1 income has to be written in Q1 itself in order to have the accuracy in place. Try to understand why they are putting so much significance in this type of concept is they want to make sure that they have some kind of accuracy. When we talk about the conventions moving forward, then you will understand why it is so much important to follow this kind of transaction. So all the people who want to become the accounting experts or really want to know what's happening at the back end, you should understand each of these concepts and conventions what we are discussing thoroughly. And this is the base of accounting, I would say. Whenever you are working for any department related to the core accounting, you would see that you would be having a great knowledge of this matching principle or accrual concept. So going back, do some kind of homework, try to get more meaning, add some more value to it, or research about it, take multiple examples and try to implement when you go back to your jobs. We are done with the accounting concepts. We have another set of some accountants or some writers mix up of accounting concepts and conventions. Some show it differently. Some show like concepts differently, conventions differently. So we have similarly we are also having like concept differently and conventions differently. Talking about accounting conventions are also similar to accounting concept. They are the common practices which an accountant has to follow. What does it help? So it helps in comparing the accounting data of different business or the same business having the different unit. For example, if you're talking about Reliance, so they have different types of businesses in place. Like they have Reliance Petroleum, Reliance Clothing, Reliance Fresh, whatnot. They have a big line of chain of businesses. So in order to compare how much one business is running compared to another business, how much is profit I'm getting. So this convention basically helps to understand. So listen to this very carefully. These are also very important. And after listening this, whoever don't know, they will realize like when we are making journal entries, we do follow all these concepts and conventions. So if somebody really want to become a master of journal entries, then this is the right thing you have to work on. Be a master of accounting concepts and conventions. So talking about the first conventions in place, there is something called as materiality. Materiality is nothing to do with the materials or inventory. It is about the material things. If you Google out the meaning of material, it's called significant. The meaning of material, one of the other meaning is of material is significant. So this convention basically talks about you have to write, you have to mention only facts which are significant to the business. You do not have to write immaterial or insignificant items. So basically this convention says if something is very important, just write it down, show it to the investors and write it in your financials. And if something is not really important, you can ignore. For example, if I have some big business of billions of business in place, then I'm just having 1 cup of tea from outside and it costed me maybe 20 rupees or so. So this convention says you do not have to write all those petty transactions. It doesn't mean I do not really have to forego that transaction. No, it says create a sundry expenses account, miscellaneous expenses account. Show that you do not have to write all the insignificant details there, like buying a stationery, buying a pen, buying a pencil. You do not have to show all these transactions. So here are a couple of examples I have in place to understand this convention of materiality. See, in the first example, this is a company. There is a company which has bought supplies. Supplies is nothing but the some kind of material, stationery, worth rupees $600. Now the question is, should the company spread this cost one month? Because what stationery I have bought is I am going to use for this 6 months of time. So per month it would be 100 per month. So this concept says, based on this concept, as the money is very much small, 100 each month. So instead of making 6 transactions of 100 each every month, this convention says, as per the materiality concept, this concept says you can go ahead and write only one transaction of $600 rather than having a 6 transaction in place. And materiality concept also talks about like only significant things has to be published into the books of account or the financials. You do not have to worry about like one of my employees. I have like 2,000 employees in my company. Suppose, for example, my 10 employees have resigned. So this concept says you do not really have to mention this fact while submitting the financial statements. While on the other hand, if one of my directors who was really responsible for taking care of my business or taking care of the decisions of my business, and he was the director of the company, then that fact becomes very significant for me, because if he is going, it can have impact on the other stakeholders. So if my director is going, I would be publishing that news into the market. If my employees or just a normal employees or any small person is going from my office, so I may not be publishing that news into the market. So materiality concept says that all the material things you have to show it to the investors or show it, publish into the financials, not the immaterial things can be ignored. Next convention is full disclosure. This convention says full disclosure means you have to disclose all the related information. When we are saying you have to show only material information, this convention says even though you are not showing immaterial things, but you have to make sure that you are showing all the information which is relevant to the people. Now you might be asking, there can be certain things where I cannot have in the books of accounts. So what should I do? So this full disclosure says that whatever is relevant to the business and material. See, here also the term is used as a relevant and material to the user's understanding. When we are saying user's understanding, it means all the related parties. Who can be the related parties to the business? It can be the employees, it can be the investors, it can be the government, it can be the tax authorities, it can be the market itself. We have the brokers, who not. There are a lot of auditors, These are all the interested parties combinedly called as stakeholders. So this convention basically is talking about you have to disclose all the material or relevant information in the financials. That is the reason there is, okay, let me quickly explain you what does it mean. When we talk about financial statement, it consists of profit and loss account, that is called as income statement in US, and balance sheet, that is called as position statement, and there is something called as cash flow statement. Let me quickly write here. So when I am talking about financial statements, oops, not falling. So when we are talking about financial statement, it basically consists of income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and there's something called as footnotes. Footnotes is a very technical word wherein you mention all about the methodologies you are following, or all the relevant information of your directors, or all the relevant information of like FIFO, LIFO, what method you are following for keeping the stock. All the relevant information would be, or how many different investments I am holding, or what decisions I am going to make in the future. Everything would be written in the notes section, because in the financial statement I have all the numbers here. I do not have any place where I can write some kind of notes. There is no way I can write here like what kind of depreciation method I have to follow or I am following, whether I'm following straight line or diminishing method or a cost method I'm following. There are a lot of methods we have in place for depreciation. So what kind of methods I'm following, I cannot write under the financial statements because there is no such place given there. Only we have to play with the number there. So for having all those kinds of explanation, we have something called as footnotes. So people who don't know, I would request them to write about the financial statement, which consists of income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, and investor statement as well, and footnotes lastly. See, as rightly pointed out here, circumstances and events that make a difference to financial statements should be disclosed into the market. Moving on to the convention of conservatism. This is very important and related to the accrual concept. As I pointed out before also, accrual concept will be there with you. If you are a part of core accounting team, then accrual concept is not going to leave you. So conservatism says to be playing safely. The plain meaning of conservatism is playing safely. So what does it actually means? It says anticipate no profit but provide for all losses. If you have to get some kind of profit from the outside, you have made some kind of investment, and there is a possibility of you getting the income. So this convention says you do not have to write unless you get profit. But for the losses, for example, you had one of the debtor where to whom you have given on credit. Now you are getting some news that he is going to run away, or he is going to bankrupt, or he is liquidating his business. So you have anticipated some kind of loss there. So basically this concept, this convention says, if you are anticipating anything, any losses you are anticipating into the in the future, you can provide for it. When I say provide for it, it is nothing but the provisions we make into the books of account. The best example for provision is providing for the bad debts. You might have heard everyone has done some kind of adjustments there. RBD, reserve for bad debts, or bad debts as such, and depreciation. All these are for providing some kind of This is the reason where, because of which we provide reserve for bad debts and we take care of depreciation also. And in this convention also says if you are getting expecting this profit, see, there is a lot of difference between this profit and what you are getting from your normal course of business. This is something extra profit out of your business. This is not the profit which we are talking about the business. The business which we get from the profit which we get the business, that's for sure we get it. We are very sure about that. After some time, there is a period of 3 months, there can be 6 months period. Whenever we are selling out investment or selling some products, we would get money. But in case of when we are talking about conservatism, we are not talking about our general profit. We are talking about the profits other than the business profit. And because of this conservatism convention, we are providing for any losses. So what happens is when you are providing reserve for bad debts, there was a person whom to whom you have as a business you have given something on credit. Now after 6 months you have realized that he is unable to pay, he does not have money, he is going bankrupt. So this convention allows you to provide for losses. When I say provide for losses, what does it give as a benefit to the business is it gives you an opportunity to write off. There is something called as write off that losses. Just imagine a situation. I have given the worth rupees 10,000 of goods to a person called A. Now A is not a position to pay me money. So as per this concept, what I do, every month I'll take 10% of reserve for bad debts and record that as an expense, or you can call it as a loss to the business. If these conventions of conservatism would not be in place, so my 100% of that what I'm expecting from that person A would be a completely loss for me. But this concept is saving businesses and saying if you are expecting any losses, you can show that as a expense or loss and show it into the profit and loss account. See, as we discussed, these are the examples: making provision for bad debts and doubtful debts, and showing depreciation. When we were talking about cost concept, we discussed about the advantage of depreciation. So this concept also says that you have something. We are recording only cost book value. We are considering for the fixed asset. We are not considering the market value. And the last consistency, last convention I have is consistency, convention of consistency. This is very important, and this talks about the methods we are following. For stock, we follow the method of FIFO, first in, first out, and last in, first out. And we have average method. We have units per method, and we have so many methods. So when we talk about the stock, keeping the stock as a into our factories. So this, and when we talk about the depreciation also, we have the different method: straight line method and diminishing balance method, and average years method, annuity method. We have like around 7 different methods of calculating the depreciation. So this convention says whenever you are following one method, for example, in the first year of your business, you are following FIFO method of keeping the stock. So this consistency method says if you are following the first year FIFO method, next year also do follow the same method. So why it is important to follow the consistency, or why it is very important to follow the same method of every year is, in order to compare it will help. Because if let us take the example of depreciation. If I am following fixed installment method, if somebody has some basic idea about depreciation, they would know it. Okay, whenever we talk about depreciation of fixed installment method, under the fixed installment method, throughout the life of this is our depreciation method I am talking about. Under the fixed installment method, my depreciation amount would be same throughout the life of the asset. For example, if I've calculated first year, if I bought machinery for 5 lakhs and I've calculated depreciation, 10% depreciation, so my amount would be, depreciation amount would be 50,000. So every year till the life of the asset, if my life of the asset is 10 years, so every year I take the same amount of depreciation, that is 50,000. First year 50,000, second year again 50,000 I will deduct, third year I will take again 50,000. But on the contrary, if I am following the diminishing balance method, there the things would be different. What happens there? If I'm following diminishing balance method, first year I would calculate 10% of my total cost of the asset. Let us take the same example of 5 lakhs. So 5 lakhs into 10%, 50,000 would be depreciation for first year. Now I am moving into the second year. And if I am following the second year, what I am thinking, let us change the method to diminishing balance method. So the diminishing balance method would calculate, again recalculate on the remaining balance. In our case, 5 lakhs minus 50,000, I was remaining with 4,50,000. So diminishing balance method calculate depreciation on the remaining 4,50,000, not on the 5 lakhs. So if I'm calculating the 10% on 4,50,000, it would be 45,000. So if I'm following fixed method of depreciation, fixed installment method, my depreciation would have been 50,000. But if I'm changing my depreciation method to diminishing balance, then my depreciation amount is 45,000. So in order to have the concept, so if I have different amount differently for the same item, similarly it goes with the stock method also. If I'm following 1 year FIFO method, next year I want to change the LIFO method, it is not a good idea in order to have the true picture of the business. True picture can be ascertained, or true picture can be only achieved when we follow same method of depreciation, same method of stock. So that's the reason this consistency of convention of consistency talks about having the consistency in maintaining the methods of accounts. You can quickly read whatever we did. This is in line with what we have discussed. Accounting practices and methods should remain consistent from one accounting period to another. And I have one more example. See, straight line method, wherein the depreciation method would be same throughout the year. In our case, 50,000. Written down value, diminishing value or written down value, what happens here is it will calculate on the remaining balance. So what I'm calculating here, would be pretty much different. If I have unit method of depreciation, then the value would be something pretty much different than what I have calculated using these two methods. So this is about having, or the significance of having the consistency, convention of consistency. So with this, I'd just like to conclude my presentation on concepts and conventions. And let me quickly recap. Concepts and conventions are nothing but these are the methodologies, procedures, or the best practices all the accountants have to keep in mind or be followed while they are writing books of account. So in that we have discussed about the business entity concept, wherein business and businessman should be considered as two different entities in order to know the true picture of the business. And then we moved on to discuss about going concern concept. This concept says the business should have the perpetual existence. We have to keep in mind whenever we are dealing with the people, we have to keep in mind the business is going to run forever. And then we moved on to money measurement concept, wherein we talked about we can write only transaction which can be expressed in terms of money. Experience of my employees or attitude or skills, honesty of my employees cannot be recorded. Passion, if my team is very passionate about doing something, but that is cannot be expressed in terms of money, so I cannot record that as well. Accounting period concept says even though we said that going concern concept says our business is going to run forever, accounting period concept talked about like segregating the life of the asset into the 12 months period each in order to know the actual profit and loss account or to know the position of the business and compare it from year to year. Then we talked about cost concept where we discuss about all assets, all fixed assets should be recorded on historical cost basis, or it is also called as book value, historical cost or the book value. Like whatever the amount of the asset for, I have to always show that amount into the books of account, into the balance sheet, and we have to take out the depreciation. We have to ignore the whatever the price of that machine into the market. Dual aspect concept is nothing but we talked about like when we are following dual entry bookkeeping system of accounting. So these concepts talk about every transaction has two sides, one debit aspect and one receiving aspect, one giving aspect. So every debit must and should have one credit, same vice versa. If you're getting a transaction, credit transaction, it also must have the debit transaction. That's the reason, because of we following dual entry bookkeeping system of accounting, the accounting equation came into picture. Accounting equation is nothing but the all the assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Owner's equity is nothing but the capital what they have brought into the business. Why they always match? Because we are writing for each debit entry, we are writing credit entry and vice versa. That's the reason at any given point of time, all my assets should always match with the liabilities. Realization concept, we talked about, we have to write about the profit when it is earned, not the, or the services when it is provided, not the when cash is received. Matching concept was pretty much related to your accrual concept, wherein says all expenses or incomes related to this year or this period has to be recorded in this period only. It cannot be taken based on the when cash or cash received or cash paid. Basically, accrual concept talked about writing the outstanding entries, prepaid entries. You must have been seeing, right? Outstanding salaries, prepaid rent, prepaid interest, or outstanding interest. All those transactions we write because of this concept, matching concept, or you can say accrual concept. Then we talked about accounting conventions, wherein we said that these also rules to be followed. First convention was materiality, where we discuss about all the material or significant things we have to record. We can ignore all the unimportant or immaterial things like some petty expenses. We do not have to spread it over. We can write it as a one transaction rather than spreading it. And we also discuss here like if any director or any executive from the any top executive is resigning or going out, moving out, or any executives coming into the business and taking some charge. So we have to show all those kinds of information because those are material. And if my just an accountant is resigning, I'm a big billionaire businessman, and my one of the accountant is resigning, so that is considered as insignificant fact for me. Full disclosure says that even though you are saying material things should be shown, but full disclosure says that you have to disclose all the material and relevant information to the users. And we talked about what financial statement would consist of. It would consist of income statement, balance sheet, cash flows, partner statement, and something called as footnotes. Then we moved on to have the conservatism. Conservatism is nothing that it's like playing safe. It says if you are expecting any profit, do not write. If you are expecting any losses, it is giving you an opportunity to go ahead and write that as a expenses. If you are expecting any loss, if your one of your debtor is unable to pay, so this convention gives you an opportunity to show that expenses, show that loss under the profit and loss account. Examples were reserve for bad debt and showing depreciation was examples. Consistency, in order to have the year-to-year comparison, we discussed about last consistency convention of consistency in terms of maintaining the stock method, in terms of maintaining the depreciation method. We need to have the convention of consistency. So this is the end of my presentation as well on basis of accounting, and the next topic was concepts and conventions. Now I am open for any quick and few questions. And just before that, this is not the end. You can have more information on the YouTube, Google out the things and try to understand what we have discussed. Is just a summary of this concept. If you really want to be a geek of accounting or the expert in basics of accounting, and believe me, this is understanding these concepts and convention is the very basic of accounting, and these are the backbone of being the good accountant. If you want to be considered as yourself considered as a core accounting field guy, whole domain field guy, then you must know all these concepts and conventions thoroughly. So go ahead and check in the YouTube, Google out. There are a lot of meanings, a lot of examples would be giving, a lot of tests are available. You can take all those tests and improve your knowledge. I am open for now any quick questions. You can just write the questions on the questions bar, because if everybody starts speaking, I think there will be a lot of disturbance. So if you can have some kind of quick questions, I can take it.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a little corporate level question. What is the difference between a subledger and general ledger?
Okay. So general ledger is nothing but if you're talking about all the journal entries, that would be considered as there are basically 7 types of books we must have read in our academics, like purchase book, sales book, purchase return, sales return, and we have accounts receivable, accounts payable book. Then there was something called as journal general. So basically these books are called as your journal ledger books, ledger accounts, and sub ledgers could be this particular account when you are making, like purchases account. When you write in the books of account, you write all the accounts at one place. If I'm segregating that into separate account, like purchase account is something different account I'm maintaining for only tracking my purchases, and I have sales account in place to track all my credit sales. So that would be considered as sub ledgers, and all when I combine all those ledgers in place, that would be called general ledgers.
Even,
I have, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, even fixed assets is also a subledger, right?
Yes, if you are making if you are making that account, if you are tracking all the fixed asset in one place, then that would be considered as subledger. But if you are talking about just Fixed asset as a subledger, it would not be subledger, it would be just an account. E-account cannot be called as a subledger. Every whatever the journal entries you are writing for each of the line, you would be having one ledger account. So that cannot be called as a subledger, I would say. That would be a ledger account as such. One more question I have, what are the daily activities of an accountant in a typical day? So activities can be different from organization to organization, department to department where you are working. So basically accountants are responsible for writing the journal entries or doing the reconciliation, matching like the company's transaction with the bank transactions, what we call as a BRS. So what I've seen as per my experience and understanding, most of the accountants do reconciliation on a daily basis. And also if you talk about if we are extending the activities of an accountant, it can be related to not only booking the journal entries, but it can be extended to preparation of financials that would consist of preparing profit and loss account, balance sheet, preparing footnotes, and preparing that in the particular format and presenting it to the concerned parties or the clients. Basically, the basic responsibility of the day of the accountant start with the booking of journal entries, and it can goes to reconciliation. And if they are responsible for the end-to-end fund accounting, if they are doing, so they would be also responsible for doing preparing the reports as well. Notes for practice at Gyanam Junior College. If you share soft copy, yes, I can share. You can just mail me. I'll just share my email ID in some time. You can share whoever shares their email ID on that. I'll just share my email ID. Whoever questions, not here, please. Not here. I'm going to share my email ID. You can just send a hello there, hi, hello there. I'll just share whoever asked me request there. Could you please give me some important questions for the interview as per your experience of accounts? Okay. I'll just park this. I'll just take it there. I know basics of accounting. How should I plan to kickstart my career in accounting needs and to reach level to get a job in accounting? Okay, somebody who is aspiring to be a good accountant or want to go into the core field should have some basic things in place. Terminologies, you should be very good at accounting terminologies. That would include your concepts and conventions, what we have discussed. You should have thorough knowledge of concepts. I'm just putting into the message box. If somebody is not seeing, they can see it here. Second, the journal entries you should be good at. And the third is very general, technical. Okay, these are the three things I would say you should be knowing that. Accounting terminology, when I say, if I'm asking you the meaning of, if I'm asking you what are the different types of errors which can happen in accounting, so you should have answer for that. There can be error of omission, error of commission, error of compensating errors. So you should be having the answers on your tip. Then only you can consider yourself as a good at knowing the accounting terminologies. Whenever I'm asking you the journal entries, I'm asking you the what could be the journal entry for outstanding salary. I always ask this question. Many people end up saying cash to salary, salary to cash, whatever they say. When I'm asking like outstanding salary, it is outstanding. I'm not paying anything there. So you should be good at having the tip answer on your tip. Then only you can consider yourself as good. Concepts and conventions, we have always talked about just now. So you should be knowing it correctly, thoroughly, without any doubt or questions. Which is the first statement for preparing balance sheet? Is it a trial balance or profit and loss account? Trial balance would be first prepared. See, I am giving you the flow, how the transaction passed. One first level is you pass the journal entries. Second level is you using whatever the accounts you have in journal entries. Each line would be have separate ledger accounts. Using the ledger accounts, I would prepare something called as trial balance. So what I do is journal entries, I'll prepare the ledger balances. In the ledger balances, I'll segregate all the debit and credits. So trial balance is nothing but it's a statement. It is not the account. We should understand. Trial balance is not the account. It's a statement which is prepared using the ledger balances. Next is your P&L, and the final is your balance sheet. This is the flow, Mr. Mustafa. To answer your question, this is a flow we have to follow. This is when we say we are good at accounts or accounting, my accounting is good. So we should also know how the transactions flow. In this case, as I explained below, journal entries would be the first phase. Then all the journal entries would be moved to each of the ledger account, what we call as a T account. Then using each of the ledger balance, I have to see that if it is showing debit balance or credit balance. Based on that, I would prepare my trial balance, and from there trial balance I prepare profit and loss account and balance sheet. Any other question? Do you people think you need to have one more session on any other different topics? Do let me know, then we can plan. In the coming weeks, we can plan off for different sessions on the different topic, like it can be journal entries, it can be discussing various accounting questions. So do let me know under comment section that if you are if you feel that you want to have some more sessions on this topic. Thank you for joining. See you in the next session. Thank you.